right, so those are the risers. Let's go ahead and talk about your faders. Who you fading after week 1 of the preseason?
Well, I mean, I'm moving up Brian Robinson. I got to fade Antonio Gibson. And honestly, I had Gibson fading a little bit even before this preseason game. This was just kind of like the thing that made me go, well, you know what, man? I just I actually have liked Antonio Gibson for the last 2 seasons. I've been really high on him, just waiting for that breakout. People are talking about, oh, he could be the next CMC and this and that, and you buy it for 1 year, you buy it for 2 years, and you know, here in year three, and I'm like, nah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, and especially not after that week one debacle, and then reports out of camp of them in the special teams. I mean, usually you don't have your starting running back
No.
running with special teams, so that doesn't bode well for Gibson. And even with the touches he did get, he wasn't very efficient at all. So fumbling issues just keep going. He was benched, special teams. I mean, he's in the doghouse. Unless something miraculous happens, he's really going to be running back by committee. He's still going to get his touches, I think. I mean, he's a good, talented football player, but there's Brian Robinson brings a different element that they want, and they want that ball to be ran between tackles downhill. Gibson just doesn't give him that. He gets out there and he's cutting, he's trying to get outside, he's loose with the ball when he does that too. So I've got him fading. Fade Gibson. Don't take him at his ADP currently. I might even drop him 2 rounds from where he's
Wow.
currently being drafted. I know that a lot of people wouldn't, but there's better running backs. There's actually running backs in later rounds. I would take Damian Pierce, whose ADP is not even 15, 16 round. I would take Damian Pierce at this point over Antonio Gibson, whose ADP is like right in the fourth, fifth round. So when you think about that, you know,
That's
neither one of
interesting.
them are great offenses. Neither one of them are great offenses. Gibson's going to be full running back by committee. There might be a running back by committee in Houston, but Pierce is the guy they just drafted. All they've got on the roster is Marlon Mack and some other scrub I don't even know the name of. So I would take Damian Pierce over Gibson at this point. Um, Cleveland RBs, man, I feel bad for these guys. Kareem Hunt don't even want to be in Cleveland.
No.
They don't even know. They say Brissett's going to be quarterback. There's rumors that they might trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. We just found out today that Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended for 11 games. Preseason game number one, their starting center gets hurt. He's gone for the year. Um, man, Browns RBs, their receivers aren't great. They got Amari Cooper. Outside of that, their receivers actually dropped. After watching the tape, Watson didn't play great, but there was also a couple of passes that hit receivers like right here, and they just dropped
Yeah.
them. So with that said, stack boxes all day. I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm stacking the box against Cleveland Browns more often than not, and I'm gonna make them beat me with their quarterback and their passing game. That's really the bottom line of that. I love Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. I love Kareem Hunt, but I just don't think that Brissett's not as good as Baker Mayfield, and even with Baker Mayfield last year being unhealthy, Chubb didn't have a great season. He wasn't healthy for a little bit. Hunt, I mean, he missed some games too, so it'll be interesting to see. I just think they're fading because of the situation they're in. It's a whole that whole organization's a dumpster fire.
Oh
This
yeah.
was literally the most Browns thing that could have happened.
Yep. Yeah.
They
I
panicked. They panicked on Baker Mayfield. That's
they
what they
did.
did.
They did.
They should have
And
kept Mayfield.
yeah, they I honestly I think that's what they probably should have done. I understand, wanting to get Deshaun Watson because he's much better than Baker Mayfield. Let's just call it what it is. However, at the same time, with his legal issues going on, knowing he was probably going to be suspended, knowing it was most likely going to be a significant suspension, I probably would have avoided going after him, and I'm glad that the 49ers did, because otherwise they'd be in that situation right now, trying to figure out
Yeah,
what they're going to do. So I
yeah,
agree with you. I still like Nick Chubb. I think that he's still going to be a producer, but I agree
I
with you. I
like
don't.
him.
I think he is probably not going to have as good of a season as he probably would have if they had their number one quarterback, obviously, for the entire year.
You've got to fade him.
Yep.
You've got to fade him from where he's at right now. Don't fade him a ton, but
Yeah.
you've got to fade him. And it sucks because the guy didn't even play in the game. Like there's no
Yeah.
negative news
Right.
surrounding him.
Exactly. Right.
It just has to do with all the things that are going on with the organization and everything like that. And losing your starting center is not. It's not something you can easily replace. I mean, starting
Yeah.
centers don't just grow on trees.
Very true. And um, you know, fantasy football is so much about the supporting cast that you have around you,
That's right.
to be able for those guys to be able to produce, obviously, and it's just as much a team sport as the actual game on the field. So yeah, I think he's definitely going to be hurt by everything that's gone on with them this so far
Yeah.
this off season.
Yeah. And then my last one here. Um, I love Debo. I'm a Niners fan through and through. I bleed red and gold. This is not a result of Debo, but after seeing Trey Lance, just being able to scan the field, also use his legs, the way he just operated. Danny Gray, I love the dude. I think the 49ers have developed a receiver group now where they don't need Debo Samuel to be the guy. They don't need one guy to be the guy. They don't need George Kittle to be the guy. Like 2017, 2018, even 2019, there's a few receivers that we had drafted that just didn't pan out. Like we couldn't land a
Yeah,
receiver to say we're like, I mean, you can even go back like 2010, I think we drafted Crabtree. He was
yeah,
decent. He was good at best. 2 years after that, we went after, gosh, I can't. He
it's
was out of Illinois.
been a lot of guys that
Uh,
we went after that just didn't work out. I agree with you
yeah,
as
I
far as
looked
wide
at it
receiver.
earlier. Yeah, 100%. This dude was out of Illinois. Oh, Jenkins, AJ Jenkins,
Yeah,
and we took him early in the draft. He didn't pan out. Nonetheless, I mean, guys like Dante Pettis, Trent Taylor, recent picks, just receiver never worked out. But then go 2020. Well, even in 2019, because that's when we got Debo.
that's
So
when we got Debo. Yeah.
2019, 2020, we got Jawan Jennings, who's really starting to, you know, come into his own. 21, Ayuk, or 2020 was Ayuk.
Yeah, they're both.
Um,
Yeah,
and then this year, we go and draft Danny Gray, whom I really like. So now I believe we have a receiving core that they're all going to complement each other. They're all going to see a lot of targets. There's a lot of mouths to feed now. So I believe that with the combination of all the added weapons, the literal rise of Brandon Ayuk throughout training camp, just the chemistry he's already developed with Trey Lance while Debo was holding out, getting his contract done. Ayuk's not in the doghouse to start the year because people don't even remember. They got to kind of got to think back. Like if Ayuk hadn't started the year in the doghouse last year, how would that have impacted Debo's numbers
yeah.
possibly?
Well,
And
he got
again,
hurt in the preseason. Remember,
yeah,
he got hurt, like a hamstring injury or something, I think,
yeah,
and then he struggled when he came back, and that's what got him in the doghouse. So yeah, you're right. Obviously, had he not gotten hurt, I think that he was having a great off season, a great training camp. He probably
yeah,
would have taken that momentum right into the season, and definitely would have taken away from some of Debo's production for sure.
yeah. So just a combination of all that, and again, no fault of Debo's, of course, but he's just not going to need to be used in the fashion that he was used last year. We have plenty of weapons. Danny Gray. Here's one of my other risers. Danny Gray. So I'll just throw this up there. And the reason why is because Trey Lance's arm is built for that deep ball.
Yeah.
Um, you saw it. You saw it. They took a couple of shots actually against the Packers, and then in the joint practice the other day, Danny Gray again. So Danny Gray caught the long pass against Packers first string DB,
Yep.
and in the practice the other day, the joint practice with the Vikings, he burned Patrick Peterson, and Trey Lance just hit him deep for a would-be touchdown. So I think that's going to be a big staple of the offense. He's the fastest receiver they got. He's got good hands. I'm super stoked. So all in all, I think the 49ers receivers, you're going to get a lot of flex potential out of that. Wide receiver 2, flex potential. Probably won't find a wide receiver 1 in that receiver group as much as everyone would like to think that Debo is going to be. I don't think there's going to be a fantasy wide receiver 1 in that group.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely see that. I hope it doesn't happen because I predicted Debo's going to be one of my top 5 fantasy uh,
I
wideouts.
did too.
But
Things changed.
that was before
Yeah.
obviously they got into training camp and we saw how Ayuk and Trey Lance have their chemistry going. Obviously, he's building chemistry with Danny Gray. I think Debo obviously is still going to be the lead dog and probably get most of the touches. But I think those other guys are definitely going to hold their own and take some of that target share away from them for sure. And then don't forget,
It's going to be.
you still got George Kittle,
Yeah.
doing his thing too. So
Mouths to feed, man. It's going to
definitely.
be it. We've got so many offenses. I'm excited about the Niners offense this year. I'm super excited. Like our defense has been stellar for years.
Yeah.
These last few years, our offense should, as long as Lance is healthy, and I'm just knock on wood here. Man, our offense can go to a whole new level this
Yeah.
year. So I'm super super excited from what I'm seeing on film, everything I'm hearing in training camp. But for the sake of this show, Debo is fading.
All right, I got you. I'm gonna throw one out there. I don't have any stats or anything like that. I'm just telling you that it's gonna happen because it has happened every single year of his career. Um, Zeke Elliott, fade him now, fade him now. I'm telling you, he is. You talk about stacked box. You're about to that the Cowboys are about to see a stacked box all day long for about 17 weeks. They have their, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about my takeaway from the preseason, their offensive line. It's not the same offensive line that it was when he came into the league his first couple of years. He may be in phenomenal shape. He may be a workout warrior, but I'm telling you, running backs, that's the one position that once they wear down and that production goes down, it almost never, ever, ever turns around. And I anticipate that he's going to continue to decline. And by the end of the season, Tony Pollard will be the number 1 running back for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me the other day, and I at first was like, but the more and more I hear out of camp and just beat writers and reports, um, I'm fading in fantasy football. I mean, I believe his career in Dallas is fading, to be honest with you. Pollard he's more athletic. He's not as hard of a runner as Zeke is, but he's definitely more athletic than Ezekiel Elliott is. So yeah, I mean, you could absolutely be right. I'm fading him. I actually have done a couple of mock drafts. I've got a draft coming up, and every time I get to a specific round, I'm not going to say for specific purposes because viewers that I'm drafting with will take my stuff here. But um, I get to him and I go, man, I want to take him, but lately I've just been
Don't
picking
trust
guys
him.
around him because there's some guys around him that are just better value. They're gonna
Yeah.
they're on better teams. They're gonna see more opportunities. So yeah, I would agree with that. I'm fading Zeke too. I've got to fade him. fade him a round or two, if he's available a couple rounds after you,
Yeah.
but his ADP right now in redraft is like third round. So,
Wow.
I mean, I'd probably go in the fourth round.
It sounds like Lucky agrees with you.
Yeah, it sounds like dogs agree with me.
Yeah. So here, you mentioned something, and I agree with you. Tony Pollard's not as hard of a runner as Zeke, but he's just as effective because he's better on the outside. He can bounce it outside. He's more shifty. He's still a very tough guy to bring down. When you watch him run, he runs hard. He's not built like Zeke for sure. I will give you that. And I will say that the one area where Zeke is head and shoulders above Tony Pollard is his pass protection. So that might factor into it. But I think really when it boils down to it, when it comes down to catches, attempts as far as running, all of that stuff, by the end of the season, Tony Pollard's gonna be the lead dog in the Cowboys backfield. That's just a feeling that I have based on the way Zeke's career has gone. And like you said, I think that this is probably his last year in Dallas, no matter what. No matter what kind of year he has, I think this is his last year in Dallas. And you know how teams think when they got a guy that's probably on his way out, it's time for the young guy to get in there and get his reps and get his mojo going. So that's just my opinion on it. So I'm fading him. Fade him, fade him, fade him.
Fade him.